This is Evening News in tonight's headlines. Kanu destroys narcotics valued US $14.3 million. Government maintains there is shortage of stone and fly Jamaica to commence operations here soon. I'm Samuel Suknandon. Thanks for joining us for your Friday, September 13, 2013 edition of the Evening News. And now for the news in detail. The Custom Anti-Narcotics Unit earlier today destroyed approximately US $14.3 million in cocaine and marijuana that were seized from various operations in this year. Bisham Mohammed was at the eradication exercise and filed this report.
In secure environment comprising heavy armed officers on Homestretch Avenue, Georgetown, the Custom Anti-Narcotics Unit this morning burnt a quantity of cocaine and marijuana that were seized by the organization during raids across the country. The sealed cocaine exhibits were opened in the presence of the media and were subsequently tested to verify that it was indeed cocaine being destroyed. The cocaine was innovatively stashed in smaller bottles, postcards, fish feed, hand cream, electricity bulb, and other items. During the exercise, head of the organization, James Singh, explained the process and listed some of the destinations the narcotics were intended.
This exercise this morning is a destruction of some cocaine and marijuana which was seized in several operations by Kanu and other agencies within the country. As these cases have just recently been concluded and persons have been sentenced, we are now taking the opportunity to destroy these drugs. The total quantity is 401 kilograms of cocaine and 30 kilograms, 465 grams of marijuana. And there's a quantity of drugs here that was intercepted destined for China. So not just Europe, the Far East also, which gives you an idea as now with all the law enforcement efforts across the region, drug traffickers are looking for new markets. Traditionally it's been North America. Now we're seeing Europe, Africa, and as far as Asia, as I mentioned, drugs were destined for China.
However, Singh noted that working with other law enforcement units and stakeholders have been very successful, while reiterating the collaboration has made it more difficult for drug traffickers.
The drugs seized here are a result of operations by Kanu and other agencies, including Customs, Drug Enforcement Unit, and the Police Narcotics. Again, because our geographic location serves as a transshipment point. But our efforts, as you would see here, we've had a lot more seizures, and I would think that because of these seizures, it's much harder now for traffickers to have that ease of access as they probably once had.
The Kanu head also disclosed that their intelligence gathering skills have been tremendous, but explained there are other challenges that the organization faces on a daily basis.
Obviously, there are challenges. Traffickers use different innovative methods. They have no respect for borders, for law enforcement, for sovereignty. So it's, as some would say, it's a cat and mouse game. So it's always a challenge, but with the support from other law enforcement agencies locally, internationally, and also through the various task force set up by the Ministry of Home Affairs on smuggling, on narcotics and firearm, that serves to bring all the units together. So there's more a collective effort.
There are pending matters involving other narcotic seizures, and once the offenders are prosecuted and found guilty, those exhibits will be destroyed. One such case is the cocaine in the lumber at Suzaik, East Bank, Demerara, where more than 300 kilograms were unearthed. Bisham Mohammed, The Evening News.
Works and Hydraulics Minister Robeson Ben has debunked claims that there isn't a shortage of stone in Ghana. Rather, the minister says there is a high demand for stones for many of the ongoing projects taking place across the country. The details in this report.
There may appear to be what I think is a false positive in stone supply because the quarry sites have been cleaned up and the material has been banked up here. And then you run in the press and say there is stone available. But overall, it's a false positive. Overall, there's a shortage of stone.
That was Works and Hydraulic Minister Robeson Ben. Ben told media operatives today that there has been a general shortage of stones for over 2 years now. The minister pointed to two pieces of evidence that suggest there is a shortage. He said the price for stone has increased and contractors are now importing stones from St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. However, construction giant BK International had said that there is more than adequate supply of granite stone and that there was no need to import stones. The minister said government remains unhappy at the high and increasing price for the commodity and the issue has been under discussion at the level of cabinet.
presentations by people who have a perverse vested interest and maybe an oligarchic interest in bullying and controlling the government and the people. We don't have any interest in that. We'll fight against that. We will make sure that a viable, sustainable, competitive, good quality product is supplied for the nation. And if it means that our on-time and good quality delivery of the project has to be facilitated by the importation of stone.
Ben believes that this shortfall have also affected the quality of stones being produced locally. He says claims by BK International that the government has been delinquent in its payment to the company, which is also involved in the construction of roads and bridges, are silly, irresponsible and reckless. Currently, a ton of imported stone is sold for $8,000 to $9,000, while locally produced stone is retailed for $8,000 and $8,500. For the Evening News, I'm Samuel Suknandan. Fly Jamaica will commence operations here in a matter of weeks, bringing some relief to air travel outside of Guyana. Here are the details in this story. The long-anticipated arrival of Fly Jamaica to the Guyanese travel market will become a reality soon, with plans already being made to commence its operations here no later than September 28. This was confirmed by the company's chief executive officer, Ronald Rees, who told media operatives here that training of several staff are already taking place with other necessary plans being fine-tuned. However, Rees disclosed that while there will be flights between Guyana and North America, these flights will have to transit Jamaica from Georgetown to New York. This is mainly because the United States Department of Transportation is yet to approve an exemption application the airline had made a few months ago. It was noted, therefore, that return flights from New York would have to make a 90-minute stop over Jamaica. However, the airline will have direct flights from Guyana to New York and Guyana to Toronto. Currently, passengers traveling with Caribbean Airlines to and from New York have to wait up to 90 minutes in Trinidad. The same period passengers will have to wait in Jamaica before returning to Guyana with Fly Jamaica. While both Fly Jamaica and Caribbean Airlines are pressing to have approval for direct flights from New York to Guyana, this has raised some concerns for U.S. authorities. It was reported in the local media that both airline applications have been rejected after it was noted that one U.S. air carrier had to cease its operation due to the competition created by Caribbean Airlines. Guyana is currently faced with several issues as it relates to international air transportation, given the fact that there are only two operators flying separate routes, one being New York and the other Miami. Several calls have been made to initiate discussions with other major international airlines to come and operate outside of the Chedijagan International Airport to create competition and make air travel more affordable for the traveling public. For the Evening News, I'm Samuel Suknandan. Another meeting was held on Wednesday with residents of Phase 2 North Mary and Works Minister Robeson Ben to further discussions regarding their relocation from the Chedijagan International Airport (CGIA) and how the government can aid in making the process easier. The Public Works Ministry is collaborating with the Housing and Human Services and Social Security Ministries and the Ghana Lands and Surveys Commission to fast-track the process. The minister acknowledged that while the procedure is painful and the anxieties are recognized, government wants to mitigate those as much as possible. Efforts are also being made to finalize the relocation plan, which is influenced by the data collected at meetings with the residents. Liana Bradshaw joins us to report that the Chedijagan International Airport expansion project is making progress, despite previous hiccups encountered by the Public Works Ministry. Here are the details in this report.
Public Works Minister Robeson Ben today highlighted that the Chedijagan International Airport CGIA expansion project is progressing smoothly despite the $5.3 billion cut the initiative suffered during the 2013 national budget presentation. He noted that the contractor of the project, China Harbour Engineering Company Limited, is already engaged in the expansion of the facility's runway. Ben said the works being carried out is as a result of the $20.7 million that was given to the engineering company previously.
Equipment is already arriving, has arrived, and more is coming in. Whatever is said elsewhere, the project is valid. The project is valid, because of the restricted runway length, which restricts the capacity in terms of efficient operation of large planes. The bigger plane you could bring in with more people, the cheaper can be the ticket prices. And that's what we want to achieve in the first instance. Well, almost at the same level too as the question of overall safety.
The government of Ghana had signed a design and build contract worth $138 million with the Chinese contractor. However, China had made available a $130 million loan to partially fund the project, with the remaining coming from the public treasury. The Transport and Hydraulics Minister has expressed optimism that the CGIA will be dubbed an A1 international facility upon the completion of the expansion project. The project is expected to see a new terminal building being constructed, with the runway extended to accommodate larger, wide-bodied planes. For the Evening News, Leanna Bradshaw.
Join us after these messages for more of the Evening News. Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. Amid speculation surrounding the non-realization of the Quarantine Bridge, Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon says some preliminary works have been completed and subsequently initial groundworks will begin shortly. Whitney Persaud reports.
A final decision is yet to be made as regards the construction of the Quarantine Bridge, but discussions are continuing and officials are now looking to finalize preliminary studies to continue with the project. This disclosure was made by Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon today, who said that government was looking to complete the project within the next 3 to 5 years. However, Dr. Luncheon said that the project calls for serious planning. Therefore, before making a decision on that project, it will be a slow step-by-step process. This is to ensure that both the Surinamese and Guyanese governments are not at any given point accused of poor technical work.
We dream of a bridge within the next 3 to 5 years. We dream about that. But I think you must be aware that the work that has been done has brought us to the point where we have to seriously consider the technology, we have to consider feasibility, and equally important, the financing of this important project.
Funding for the project has been an ongoing deliberation between Suriname, Guyana, and international financial institutions. Dr. Luncheon said the two countries have signaled strong support for the establishment of land linkages across the Quarantine River.
Those discussions continue even as we speak to arrive at a specific approach that would see funding made available to complete the preliminary studies, feasibilities, subsequent to which the project will be going out to bid.
The project was identified as one of a series of projects that would further physically integrate South America and was discussed at UNASAR meeting. During his presidential campaign, Suriname's head of state Desi Boutisser had promised to build a bridge across the Quarantine River should he be elected. Boutisser had said that it is necessary that technical assessments be done before the project meets the construction phase. For the Evening News, Whitney Persaud.
As part of activities to mark Education Month 2013, a education rally was held at the National Park today, where a score of students from across the country attended. Sabatini Daniels reports.
President Donald Ramata reiterated his government's commitment to ensuring that every Guyanese is afforded an equal opportunity to education. Delivering the feature address at the Education Ministry's Rally for Education at the National Park, Ramata said this is evident in the large sums of money being invested in the sector.
Science and technology is moving apace, and we must use that science and technology in education as well. And that is why we are examining right now about putting some degree programs of the University of Guyana to put them online so that people in the most remote part of our country can also have access to tertiary education.
The president told the students that they have the honor of taking the country to another level of development, thus he encouraged them to stay focused and pursue their studies. Meanwhile, Education Minister Priya Manichan said government, the Education Ministry, teachers, students and parents must work as a collective body to ensure each learner strives to do their best.
And if anybody in that leg is weak, we're not going to go as fast as we can go. The PPP Civic has your back. We are committed to making sure education is the #1 priority and that you're educated to the best of your ability.
Meanwhile, Chief Education Officer Olato Sam said the subject ministry reaffirms that education must be seen as priority #1 in the country.
We at the Ministry of Education continue to proclaim that we will work and commit ourselves to ensuring that education is the vehicle used for taking us into the 21st century, further into the 21st century, I should say. And our theme this year, transforming classrooms for the 21st century, underscores that commitment.
Assembly point for the rally was at the parade ground, Middle Street, Georgetown. It commenced east of Middle Street along Camp Street towards Lamaha Street, north along Albert Street into the National Park. The rally was deemed the largest ever as seating at the National Park was filled to capacity. The assembly saw students from both Georgetown and other parts of the country in attendance. The Rally for Education is one of the main activities included in Education Month of Activities, which is celebrated every September. Sabatini Daniels reporting for the Evening News.
The main opposition parties accusing the government of not doing enough to develop the hinterland region. More in this story.
Unsafe environment, underdevelopment of physical infrastructure, unsettled land matters, and widespread uneasiness among residents are some of the issues that a Partnership for National Unity, APNU, is blaming the government of Guyana for. This was pointed out by APNU parliamentarian Winston Felix on Friday at the party's weekly press conference. Felix is calling on the government to revise its strategies to fix the problems hindering the development and security of the hinterland and its people.
A Partnership for National Unity now calls on the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration to radically change its hinterland development policy, if at all it has one. The administration needs to create a secure environment for Amerindians and other residents, visitors and investors. It needs to improve the standard of education and adopt genuine technical and vocational training for youths. It needs to introduce a new policy to the rehabilitation and construction of safe bridges, roads, and other physical infrastructure.
He highlighted that the Ministry of Public Works has been stagnant in making the roads accessible, pointing out to the increased number of hinterland accidents. Felix is also alleging that the dropout rates of hinterland students at both the secondary and primary school level have increased and said that students' performance is also deteriorating. Meanwhile, another APNU parliamentarian, Annette Ferguson, said that her party will continue to press for the government to reverse the situation.
So our brothers and sisters in the hinterland, they're indeed suffering. So, and as a opposition party, we are going to ensure that, the government is held responsible and proper policies and systems are put in place so as to bring relief to our brothers and sisters there in the hinterland.
Sabatini Daniels reporting for the Evening News.
A major shortfall in revenues garnered by the Madhya Power and Light MPL is the main cause for the rationing of electricity in the mining district, Region 8 Regional Executive Officer Ronald Harsawak said. Approximately 1 month ago, the MPL's board was reportedly forced to reduce the hours of electricity supply to its consumers, leaving them with just 12 hours per day in an effort to keep the company afloat. For more than a year, the company has been experiencing serious financial difficulties. Residents are currently receiving electricity from 18 hours to 6 hours. It was explained that the MPL has been losing millions of dollars since the implementation of the metering system within the sub-district in late 2012. The new Chief of Staff of the Ghana Defence Force, Mark Phillips, will be officially sworn in on Monday. More from Whitney Prasad.
Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Donald Ramatara, will confirm the appointment of the new Army Chief of Staff, Mark Phillips, on Monday in the Credentials Room at the Office of the President. This is according to Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon during his post-cabinet briefing held today. Brigadier Phillips will fully assume the office and duties of the GDF Chief of Staff and Chairman of the Joint Services Coordination Council on the retirement of the Chief of Staff, Rear Admiral Gary Best, on September 28th.
The appointment as the Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defence Force on Brigadier Mark Phillips on Monday, September the 16th, 2013 at 10:30 a.m.
Phillips will also receive this designation from his successor through a ceremonial handing over on Tuesday, subsequent to his confirmation, which will be held at Kampa in Ghana. In August, after receiving his promotion, Brigadier Phillips pledged his commitment to move the force forward. He thanked the head of state and the Army for recognizing his service to Ghana Defence Force and the nation by large. He assured that professionalism will be his guide as he assumed his new office as Chief of Staff designate. Phillips has been serving the Army for more than 30 years. He received this promotion in the presence of the head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon, Presidential Advisor on Governance, Gil Tushira, the outgoing Chief of Staff, Rear Admiral Gary Best, and other senior Army officials. For the Evening News, Whitney Prasad.
Join us after these messages for more news. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the Evening News. The main opposition party is calling on the Ghana Police Force to enhance its strategies in crime fighting in order to provide a safe and secure environment for all Guyanese. More in this report. In light of the recent upsurge in criminal activities, a Partnership for National Unity has called on the Ghana Police Force to up its game in fighting crime. This plea was made on Friday by APNU parliamentarian Winston Felix, who said that the security force needs to develop an intelligence gathering system which will assist them in tackling criminal activities.
These crimes are well planned and executed, and so traditional methods of responding ought to be enhanced. And that is why I am advocating intelligence gathering upon which sensible counter-police operations can be mounted.
The former police commissioner stated that the police force has a standard procedure they undergo at such time by identifying the vulnerable areas. In this case, he highlighted the increase of crime on the coastlands and recommended that more patrols be placed in those areas. Felix highlighted that the lack of stringent security at the borders has contributed to smuggling of weapons into the country, hence the increased usage of firearms in crimes. Meanwhile, Home Affairs Minister Clement Rohi at a press conference on Thursday said that his ministry is working on providing the necessary resources to adequately equip the police and the defense force to combat the crime situation in Guyana. He noted that one of the areas they are working on is intelligence, noting that intelligence-driven operations will be useful to the force.
We intend to use more expansively and make more resources available to informants to provide what would be called human intel to the law enforcement agencies. So apart from the technological interventions, there's also the human intel side that is required. Because crime fighting now, not only in Guyana, but in many parts of the world, depend on intelligence. And that is the focus that we intend to pursue over the next months.
Rohi also pointed out that his ministry is aware of the increasing number of deaths which stemmed from criminal activities and is working to prevent this. For the Evening News, I'm Samuel Sutnandan. Although it has not yet received its license to operate, the newly established Buddy's Rice Milling Complex has officially begun buying paddy, receiving good response from Regions 5 and 6 farmers. Leanna Bradshaw brings us the details.
This newscast was told by a top official of the Buddy's Rice Milling Complex that the company has already received its license to operate, but Guyana Rice Development Board GRDB General Manager Jagnarine Singh confirmed that this is not so. However, he said the rice mill's new management is soon to be issued its license as it is being processed. Singh said the company has so far satisfied most of the criteria for licensing. Meanwhile, Buddy's Rice Milling Complex Chief Executive Officer Arnold Gadraj said the company has already bought paddy from about 10 to 15 rice farmers who planted early. The millers are offering farmers $4,000 per bag of paddy and are issuing payments in a timely manner. Gadraj boasted of the company's fast intake, noting that it would reduce the hassle of farmers having to line up, thus ensuring faster grading and processing. He is encouraging farmers to take their paddy to the Buddy's Rice Milling Complex when the harvesting season is in full swing. The GRDB General Manager had previously told this newscast that while a milling license is needed before a company can commence operations, the GRDB would from time to time flex with companies so as to ensure farmers' paddies are sold. For the Evening News, Leanna Bradshaw.
In the next 2 weeks, University of Ghana students will exercise their democratic right by voting for the new executive of the University of Ghana Student Society. Sabatini Daniel spoke to the candidates who are contesting for the upcoming elections and filed this report.
The winner of this election will replace former President Ganesh Mahipal, who was suspended following allegations that he had misappropriated $800,000 of the students' fund. As such, the new president will have to regain the trust of many of the students who claim they are no longer interested in UG politics due to this issue. Speaking to this newscast, presidential candidate for the Students' Empowerment Alliance, 19-year-old Richard Rambaran, said his vision for UG is to have a non-violent, transparent and harmonized campus,
where we're all there and working together for a common good, augmenting student welfare, and also having issues concerning students being brought to the fore so that everything academic and otherwise can run smooth.
Meanwhile, presidential candidate of Revolutionaries, 19-year-old Samira Dionot, said she hopes to tackle issues relating to student loans, registration, and security at UG, since these are major issues students are faced with.
Especially security, because we're paying close to $3 million, between $3 or $5 million a year to a security company to provide security on campus. And when students are still being robbed and assaulted, those things just can't be happening, not only because we're paying all this money, but because we're a university and we're supposed to have a higher standard. And if we can't protect our students, then how can the students even trust the university to provide for their needs?
Presidential candidate of Teen Visionary, 36-year-old Jermaine Hermanstein said if he is to win, one of the first things he would seek to do is to hold talks with the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Jacob Upede, on a way forward for the university.
And I want to ensure that every University of Ghana student know that they're a stakeholder and they have a voice in doing this. I don't believe that I have all of the answers, but I certainly believe that with inclusiveness and with dialogue, we could discuss these things among students, and we could come with a position where we form a consensus, and we could go ahead and deal with issues, real core issues that are affecting students.
Presidential candidate of Student Movement Advocacy, Rights and Transformation, 35-year-old Yolanda Albertnetti, June, said his vision is to put in place better things for students and to make proper representation on their behalf.
At the forefront of our agenda and our vision really is to encourage polite behavior, student to student, student to lecturers, vice versa, student to administration and supporting staff. Right? Because we believe that's paramount, that's important, that's the basis, the foundation upon which anything else can be built. If people can't work together, then they can live together.
Elections will be held on September 25 at Turkine Campus, September 27 at Tain Campus, and September 28 for Turkine Master's Degree students. Sabatini Daniels reporting for the Evening News.
8 families from Manawaran Region 1 on Thursday received keys to their new homes as part of the Housing Ministry's Hinterland Housing Pilot Project that has been implemented under the Second Low Income Settlement Program LIS-2. The beneficiaries are Timothy Daniels, Dion Williams, John Oselmo, Gloria John, Valerie Fredericks, Evadne John, Crawford Williams, and Mabel Benjamin. Some of these individuals and their families are now able to move from very poor dwelling conditions into well-constructed 3-bedroom houses, while the others who were living in very remote areas can now move closer to access basic services such as education and health. Join us after these messages for your evening news sportscast sponsored by Macor. Welcome back, and now for a look at sport. The second annual Georgetown Softball Cricket League Incorporated GSCL 12-12 Championships will bowl off on Saturday at the Everest Cricket Club ground at 10 hours. 12 teams, including defending champions Memorex, were placed into 4 groups of 3 and will contest the preliminary rounds of the tournament on a round-robin basis, with the top 2 teams advancing to the quarterfinal, which is set for next Saturday. The semi-final and final will be played the following day. Director of Sports within the National Sports Commission, Neil Kumar, is expected to deliver the opening remarks before the action bowls off, with 2 groups matches being played simultaneously. The Athletics Association of Guyana, in conjunction with the National Sports Commission, will run off the trials for the Inter-Guyana Games IGG on Saturday. Tristan Joseph has this report.
Athletes from high schools across the nation will have an opportunity to match strides with their counterparts at the Inter-Guyana Games trials on Saturday at the Police Sports Club ground, Ivlery. The trials will aid the Athletics Association of Guyana and the National Sports Commission in choosing their team to represent the country at the Inter-Guyana Games in Suriname. The meet is also expected to pit some of the best junior athletes against each other, as the likes of Jason Yaw and Tarana Mitchell, both of whom captured bronze medals at the Junior Carifta Games earlier this year, are expected to compete at the trials. Both Yaw and Mitchell have also been selected to participate in the first South American Youth Championships later this month and should be using the trials as a tune-up heading into the South American event. The Inter-Guyana Games is set to start from October 17th, as Guyana will participate in athletics, swimming, volleyball and basketball.
India and Rajasthan Royals fast bowler S. Sreesanth has been handed a life ban by the Board of Control for Cricket BCCI for his involvement in spot fixing in the Indian Premier League IPL 2013. The 30-year-old, who played 27 tests for India, was arrested in May. He was charged with taking money to concede a predetermined number of runs in 3 different IPL matches. Sreesanth Royals team mate and Mumbai spinner Ankit Chavan was also banned for life following the board's disciplinary committee meeting in Delhi on Friday. Remember, you can read about these and other stories in tomorrow's edition of the Ghana Times newspaper, which can be purchased from vendors across the country. When you're not reading our newspaper or watching TVG Channel 28, do tune into Radio Ghana Inc. RGI on 89.3, 89.5 or 89.7 FM. Your Bridge reports are next. Welcome back, and now for a look at your bridge reports. The Dem Harbour Bridge will be closing Saturday, September 14 at 11 hours for a period of 1.5 hours. And the Berbice River Bridge will be closing Saturday, September 14 at 10 hours for a period of 1.5 hours. That's your Friday, September 13, 2013 edition of the Evening News. I'm Samuel Suknandan. Thanks for joining us.